Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the show. This is the Bader Show. I'm Mark Bader, episode 439. Today's March 25th, 2025, and a very timely guest who just kind of did the impossible. A lot of people would think, except maybe himself, his friends and coaches and family, but it's Wyatt Hendrickson, 2025 NCAA champion, and of course, just recently shocked the vast majority of the wrestling world with his win over Gable Steveson at the 2025 NCAA championships. I know been put through the media ringer, and we appreciate him taking a second to chat with us today. Wyatt, outside of Chipotle, just put his belly, filled his belly up. How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been an overwhelming arrival back to Stillwater. I mean, this is a special place. You know, the whole town came out to show their support and respects when we got off the plane, and it feels good to be back home. Philadelphia, a little bit too crowded for me, if I'm being honest. Don't think I'm not a city person, so I'm really happy to be back in Stillwater.
Now, do people recognize you? I feel like there's something missing here from your upper lip, Farva.
Yeah, so yesterday, I knew I was going to shave my mustache eventually. I actually didn't even mean to let it grow out that long. I just was kind of sick and tired of, I wasn't able to have facial hair for the past 5 years, and I was finally able to, so I just let it grow out. And then people were always like, oh, dude, there's two caterpillars like fighting on your face. And I was like, I'm going to keep it just to rub it in a little extra, My mom wasn't the biggest fan, but, oh, well, I just kind of, I don't know, I was really feeling that smooth face again. But I couldn't shave it during the season because then it would be bad luck. If I started the season with it, I got to finish the season with it. So, season's over, and now I guess I'm just getting a little bit of a different look for summer.
You certainly seem like the kind of guy who will finish what he started, so glad you kept it for the season. It's a signature. I want to jump back to 2022, right? You finished, you're at Air Force, you finished the regular season 24-0, I think you were undefeated. And you go to Nationals, and you went 2-2. I'm curious, great season, a bunch of pins, you're undefeated. What was your confidence level rolling into the 2022 NCAA championships?
Yeah, I think it's always good to be positive, and you have to expect to do good. You want to do good, but at the same time, you have to have the training that reflects that. And I think I just went into that tournament a little bit too confident. I kind of thought things would be given to me because, that was my first time being a top seed. I was the 5th seed, which was awesome, And so I guess I was just walking into that tournament expecting, I'm seeded this, that's what's going to happen, Or I'm going to be an All-American. But, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Seeds, numbers, rankings, doesn't matter. But I just, I think those earlier matches I overlooked, and it didn't work out for me. I lost to Christian Lance, and I was looking way too far ahead. I was looking on who I'm going to have in the semis and the finals, and which is great. Like I said, it's great to be confident, but I think I kind of just went in there with, I wasn't humble enough at that time. So I learned the lesson the hard way, and the last couple of years have been pretty good. I've been definitely going in there respecting my opponents, and not taking anybody lightly, no matter if it's the first round or if it's the finals.
I was going to say, what did you learn? But I think you already answered that. Don't look ahead. Don't be too overly confident. When did you realize that? Was it as you're losing, or after you lost either match, or days or weeks later?
It was after. After I got beat out of that tournament, I went to I just didn't know what to do. I was like, no way this just happened. I went straight to the weight room and tried to lift, and I just couldn't. I was still too upset. And Sam Wolf, I was like, I'm in the gym. I'm trying to lift, and I just couldn't. But I think in that moment, I was just I remembered the way I felt, and I knew I never wanted to ever feel that way again, moving forward. So I did everything in my power to, not let that happen again. And it's ever since I've kind of been more of a, humble about my opponents and everything. It's tended to be in my favor.
So your immediate thought was to go lift and work out and fix this physically, but it seems like it wasn't a physical thing, and it was more of a mental and approach thing. Is that accurate? And if so, how did you? Is that something you can fix right away, or is it like I just got to wait till I get back there next year and like do it better?
Yeah, you just kind of have to train with like that attitude and reinstill that. I mean, I knew it's easy to say. Everything's always easier said than done, and you can do something one time, but you kind of just have to be consistent. And I needed a whole nother season to go in there with the right mindset and really just embed that into my wrestling. So I mean, it was definitely that next season. During the year, I was just I didn't take anything lightly. There was no days where I'm like, oh, I did enough yesterday, so I'm gonna take it light today. There was no more of those days, and I just, it's just, I wish I would have done that sooner because it really sucks. The best way you learn is obviously like from competition, but learning the hard way is not always fun. But I think that's what I needed, was to learn it the hard way. And so the next year when I was training, I could do everything the right way. And my mental aspect of it was, just, that's when I really the mental side of stuff kind of started to develop and take off in my wrestling career.
Yeah. Let's go same question, but at the 23, and you, if you want to even take it into the 24, right? I think you were third both. Like, how did you feel coming into the 23 NCAAs, and what was different maybe about your mental approach, or what you could control mentally?
Yeah, I think I just really had a belief in myself that I was a great wrestler. I mean, even back all the way back to high school, there's always those matches where you have to beat somebody to, move forward and take a step forward. And there was a guy that was a little bit better than me, and I beat him, and I was like, wow, like I actually can be a pretty good wrestler. So I think I just had such a good year. And I really started, seeking some mental coaches to help me, just because it's what you're telling yourself, in those moments, when you're wrestling. Because if you're thinking not great thoughts, then you're probably not going to do so well. But if you're thinking of the right stuff, like before you go into a match, like, hey, I'm going to wrestle this match to win, not to lose. If you're wrestling and there's 20 seconds left, you're going to keep trying to score points if you're down, versus if you're like content with losing, your body is not going to, do what it needs to do to win that match. So the mental aspect of stuff has been huge. And even this year, my attitude has just been, I have that vision of victory. I want to be the champ, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my hand raised 5 times at the national tournament.
You mentioned you beat somebody who either was really good or you didn't think you could beat, or whatever, and that gave you some. Who do you remember? Who was that? I'm sure you remember.
I think his name was Aaron something. He was from Kansas, but he was like the number one ranked kid in the state, and I was like number 8 or something. I wasn't even up there. But Aaron Jones, he was Aaron Jones, and he was like the best guy. And I really just thought to myself, I'm like, well, for him, like, he didn't start at number 1. He had to start somewhere. And I kind of realized, this is, of course, gonna be possible. Like, for him to get there, he had to beat someone good, and for me to get there, I'm gonna need to beat somebody good. So after that match, I was like, holy smokes, like, okay, I can wrestle. And it's just every level I jumped, you kind of have to, I mean, you can think it, you want to be the best, but also having some good criteria and a track record of beating people is going to help you. And I think as I've evolved as a wrestler every single year, I've beaten better wrestlers, which just instills more confidence in you, and then you just keep climbing the ladder until you get to the top.
Sure. Rate of improvement. I want to kind of talk about this, and you have like a world-class training setup right now. Your coach is an Olympic champ. You have a world champ in the room. Kennedy's been on a world team. And something I went back and watched our conversation from, I think you and I talked in December maybe, and you were like, yeah, practice is noon to 4, noon to 5. But that doesn't mean I'm on the mat from noon to 5. I'm on the mat from 2 to 4 or whatever. Talk me through some of the things you do over that 3, 4, 5 hours on and off the mat. And when you started seeing improvement daily, weekly, monthly, and how you see that improvement, do you have to go out at matches and make it happen, or can you see it, I got a takedown on David, or whatever, right? I got in this position against whoever, and I saw an improvement.
Yeah, so to answer that first part, it starts off like we show up and we get recovery and we kind of just hang out together. The beginning of the year, we did it a lot more just because, there wasn't really school going on yet. It was still the end of summer. We'd show up around 12, play some PlayStation together, play some Super Smash Bros. Hit the tubs, hot, cold tub, get some recovery in. Start wrestling about 2, and then wrestle for an hour, hour and a half, and then after that, just hang out with everyone, hang out, chat, maybe hit some recovery more, and then we go to dinner at 5. So, I mean, it's a pretty good schedule. But I mean, really, we talk about getting better and the path and realizing it. You really don't until moments like the national tournament. When I came in and wrestled with Coach Taylor, he would gas me out, he'd score on me, and it would just suck. I hated wrestling him. But I mean, if we look back now to every time I've wrestled him in the past couple months, I mean, I've just grown really technically, and now I take him down a lot, and I hold him down, and the role's kind of reversed. But I mean, I guess I realized that stuff, but it's really just you have to just believe in your training and believe in your coaches and have that trust factor, because you'll never know till the end if it really worked, and obviously everything we did worked out really, really great. But if I'm just sitting there questioning the whole time, like, man, I don't even know if I'm getting that better. I don't know if this is working. Like, well, I'm only hurting myself by having that mindset. So, I mean, I just trusted Coach Taylor when I came in. He said, hey, I'll make you a national champion. And I said, okay, let's do it. And everything he's been guiding me to do, is along with the other coaches, I mean, I've just been listening to their instructions, listening to their wisdom. They've, poured into me all the technique, and it worked out.
And I watched Coach Taylor's interview, or an interview with Coach Taylor afterwards, and I think it was Saturday night. And he's like, yeah, he was great. He came in, but I don't think sloppy was the word he used, but he made a lot of mistakes, or maybe it was sloppy. There's a lot of, he's like, we cleaned a lot of things up. That's what I remember him saying. He was like, we cleaned a lot of things up. And what things do you think you cleaned up the most since working with Coach Taylor and being at Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I used to be a pretty spazzy wrestler. I was bouncing all over the walls, and we found a new definition to fit and to capture everything that would help me. We call it controlled chaos, because no wrestling match is going to be perfect, and depending on the match, if it was a better guy, it was like, hey, controlled chaos, no, wrestle smart. Sometimes if I was just wrestling someone, they'd be like, all right, this is chaos, go have fun, go destroy everything. And so I could kind of let loose, and that's when you'd see a little bit more of that funky wrestling. But I really think just the way they described everything, and as soon as they put it in a scenario, like they'd talk about a match, like, hey, you're wrestling, Greg, you should only have a couple good shots in there. You can't be shooting every 5 seconds. You're going to wear yourself out. And they just, I'd have hard matches where I wouldn't do it right. I'd be taking, 50 shots, and they're like, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel freaking tired, and then I do it the better way, and I stay patient. And, the few attacks I do take, it's, I'm not using wasted energy or, wasting time or wasting effort. Everything I'm doing is for a purpose. And so, I just having the practice environment of Coach Taylor to wrestle against me and do those things, that's kind of the biggest way I learned is I started copying what he did to me, because, I mean, every wrestler can, agree that if someone gets something on you, you're probably going to agree that it'll probably work, because, everyone thinks like, oh, like that'll work on someone else, but not on me. So if something works on me, like someone does something and it works on me, you're probably going to be like, all right, maybe I should learn that. So everything Coach Taylor was doing, I kind of just picked up on it and tried to add it to my wrestling.
You mentioned like, hey, we talk about, if you wrestle so-and-so, chaos. But if you're wrestling Greg, you're going to have to pick your spots, right? How much, if so at least, maybe that got mentioned, right? Was there that much, a little bit more like, and from an outsider's and definitely your guys' perspective, you had to know that the two big matches were going to be Kerkvliet and Gable, right? And that's, I know you said don't get ahead of yourselves, but you also had the data that you were third a couple of times, and I think we knew where the tiers were. How much thought, energy, game planning, whatever you want to call it, was there towards one or both of Kerkvliet and Gable? And this is like throughout the season, not like Friday night after the semis, right? Or not even in Philly, but just as the season's going on. Is that something you talked about? A fraction, a little bit, not at all? Or no, we kind of had to be kind of focused on that?
Never.
Never.
Never. Whenever I was in the practice room and I needed to fix something, all Coach Taylor would really say is, "Hey, he's like, stuff like this is what'll help you beat the best wrestlers." He's like, if you wrestle, the only time he ever used those examples is like, if I was, let's say I had a great day in the practice room, but I was wrestling, the 197 pounder, I was beating him up. He just remind me, like, most likely when I wrestle that, my technique's probably not going to be perfect. And so, I'm thinking I had a great day. He's like, "Hey, just to let you know, if you had to wrestle so-and-so today, if you were to step across the mat from a top 5 guy or, Greg, you might not get those shots because of this, this, and this." So they just wanted to evolve me as a wrestler. We never had any training tailored towards anybody. The only thing we ever really mentioned was like, "Hey, Gable's good at grabbing ankles." And so whenever on my shots, we just, fix on doing that. But that wasn't just for one person. That was just to be a better wrestler in general. And so before the match, the only thing we actually ever said was, before I wrestled Greg and before I wrestled Gable, the only thing we ever said, Coach just gave me a couple quick tips. He was like, "Make it hard and take good shots and be patient." Just small stuff like that. We never game planned and like drew up a whole map on what happens. I think a couple of times they're like, "Hey, Greg might try to do this to you." I'm like, "Okay, fine," just tying up. But I never changed really the way I wrestled or game plan for anybody. I just went out there and did what I did. So, yeah.
Oh, it worked. This year's NCAA championships, in 2022 you went in too confident, looking ahead. What was your describe the same thing but for 2025? Walking in, what you thought. I'm sure you knew how the bracket would shake out and what the path was, but where the focus was, where your mentality was.
Yeah, so when I'm in situations like that, I do best when I just take myself out of the environment. So I download a lot of movies. I become an iPad kid, in short. So I obviously knew who I was wrestling, but I don't like sitting around thinking about it, because then you start overthinking. So most of the time I'm just on my phone playing games, watching a movie, and then as I'm getting closer to that match, I start to get in the zone and I get ready to wrestle. But just taking yourself out of the environment makes it a lot easier to not get overwhelmed. And I absolutely, yes, I knew that Gable and Greg were going to be opponents I was going to face that tournament, but I didn't give that any thought until, a couple hours before I wrestled them, because for me personally, if I start thinking about it ahead of time, it's going to mess me up. And then I'm thinking about too much of my next match and not the first match. So we did a really great job. The coaches did a really great job of holding me accountable to that, making sure that I'm just living in the moment. I'm not looking ahead. I'm not, getting caught up in other results or other people. I just asked them, I said, "Hey, let me know who wins the match. Let me know what I have next." And, we kind of base it off from there.
iPad kid, what are you watching? I'm interested. What are you watching to keep your mind off of wrestling during the tournament itself or in the hotel?
They call me Captain America. I watch a lot of Avengers. I've been a huge Marvel fan my entire life, so I usually watch, all the Avengers movies, a lot of Marvel. Loki. It's a lot of Marvel stuff, to sum it up. Maybe some Disney if I'm really feeling like in a really good mood and I need, having something bad happen. But for motivation, always go the Avengers. But, if I want to relive some childhood memories and get myself in a good, childish, fun mood, I'll watch some Disney.
Okay. All right, as we head into the Greg Kerkvliet match, you guys aren't really coming up with the specific game plans, maybe not with the coaches, but are you running through scenarios or positions or I don't know if you want to call it a game plan or an approach in your own head, or are you just like Disney and Marvel until it's time to get ready and walk out and you're not really thinking about how it's going to go, you're just going to get on the mat and do it?
Yeah, I pretty much up until like right I'm about to wrestle, I'm just kind of focusing on my own thing. We actually didn't go over any positions for anybody. Like, I kind of knew that, Greg's good at some of these shots and with the ties he wants. And I think that's all we said. I think he's like, "Hey, just clear the ties." That was really, that's it. You don't want to overcomplicate stuff, because if you're thinking while you're wrestling, then that means you're not really wrestling. You're thinking about what you're going to do. And so when we don't try to overwhelm ourselves with what to do, what to think about while you're wrestling, because that takes away from what you're doing. So they kind of just say, watch out for this so you can still have a free mind when you wrestle. And it worked out great. You know, I think back to when I wrestled Gable, and I had a pretty good mindset going into that match, you know, and even during the match, like I was just flowing. It was all flow. I wasn't ever really having to think about it. I knew I was like, okay, watch this tie is going to maybe pop it off and try to double leg it. But I mean, it's just, I've done this so many times for every match throughout the year. It's just habit. You know, I've done it before. I'm comfortable with my strategy, and I feel good about it.
Okay. You're not watching, thinking about your opponents, this and that, the other. There's also this aspect of like the team, right? And Oklahoma State's, you know, doing well and marching through the tournament. And maybe even we'll talk to like Hamiti's wrestling in the finals. I think just 2, right, matches before you because they put 84 first. Did you watch Hamiti's match? And that had to be exciting. Or did you like totally remove yourself because it's going to be hard to win or lose, even probably harder in the win, not get your emotions mixed up one way or another?
Yeah, that's actually hilarious you say that, because the warm-up room did have a TV that that was showing the match, and Luke Serber, I was warming up with Luke, and they turned the volume down off of the TV, but some of the coaches in the practice mat room was still, you know, watching it. And I was practicing, and I would hear the coaches go like, oh, and I'd like try to look, and Luke was like a tree. He'd stand up, put his arms out like a kid, like, no, don't look. And I was just like, at that point, I'm like, all right, look, I can hear something's going on. Let me watch it so I don't just, because now I'm going to start thinking about what just happened, because I know the coaches are getting involved, and they're like, oh my gosh, 3, they're yelling 3. And I'm sitting there like, guys, I'm trying to warm up. I'm still in here. And they're like, oh, sorry, you know? And so it was kind of funny, but yeah, I usually don't like to watch those matches or get involved, just because, you know, I think it's important in those moments to just focus on yourself. If all 10 guys, you know, because mainly it's the biggest situation that happens is a duel. I'm the last match. There's 9 matches before me. If I'm sitting there getting emotionally invested in all the matches, it's going to make it a lot tougher when I go out and wrestle. So it wasn't that hard to kind of sit in the back, because I've done that all the time. But I did watch a little bit of it. That's the only match I think I ever watched in the finals, because I was just in the back watching my shows.
How did you handle watching Hamiti win? Because I'm sure you got excited, but you don't want to get like through the roof. Explain trying to manage that and like be excited, but just maybe also be like stoic, or however you were trying to be.
Yeah, I think my body's just kind of used to that. You know, I've watched these guys wrestle a lot, and they've done a lot of winning. And beginning of the year, I was probably a little bit too much amped up. It hyped me up, but I just saw it, and I'm like, yeah, like I knew, like, Dean deserves this. Dean has worked his butt off. He's wrestled great. Like, it wasn't really that much of a surprise, I would say. I mean, I was like, yeah, that's a hardworking dude. He's going to be a national champion. He won a national championship. All right, you know, boom, there it is. And so I was kind of just like, I was excited for him, but I was still able to kind of sit there and focus on myself. I didn't lose sight or, you know, wander off to something else after that match.
Back to Marvel movies. Gable. Okay, you've wrestled Gable multiple times. This wasn't the first time. I assume you had confidence in yourself. You know, there's like thinking I can win, believing I can win, knowing I'm going to win. 3 different ways to kind of say the same thing, but kind of different. And you know, I'm in the past, and was this different than before? Because maybe you thought you were going to win, or believed you could, or maybe you knew you were going to win this time. But has that been the case in the past? Like compare the first time, and maybe if there was a second time, and you know your confidence going into those matches versus Gable.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the coaches a lot leading up to that about, you know, the mindset it takes to be a national champion, no matter who you're wrestling in. I truly believed I had what it took. You know, I was locked in before that match. I went out there and I wrestled like I wanted to win. I wanted to wrestle like a national champion. And I think you could tell that, you know, if I had a different mindset, maybe I would have conceded some of those points, some of those shots, but I didn't. I fought back. I'm like, I want this. So I truly did believe in the bottom of my heart that I had what it took to be a national champion and, to beat Gable. Even when he came back the first time, was when he announced he was coming back to college wrestling. We never really talked about it. We never brought it up. Like, there wasn't really a need to it because the cards are different a little bit, like the game's still the same. Nothing was gonna change. Like, I'm trained to be a national champion. Like, I'm not gonna change anything now. But the mindset there was just I was confident. Still good.
You're getting blown up here, aren't you?
Yeah, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but sometimes I guess people find a way to break through it.
That's all right. You're a popular guy. Okay, so I guess we'll kind of get into the match, and I want to play this short video here of the walkout, and just tell me, like, Nikki, whenever you want to play this. He walks out, he does his thing. You walk out with the flag. He comes up, and Nikki, you can play this. He walks up in, like, right into your space. Do you remember what did he say? What was that moment right there?
So in the moment, I was locked in. I wasn't listening. I was inaudible. I wasn't paying attention. I just saw him. He was in front of me, and I shook his hand. I gave him a little hand slap. That's all. That's the only thing going through my mind. But watching the replays and going back in the moment, he was kind of intimidated, I think, or maybe not intimidated, but I thought he thought I was undeserving of doing that. I mean, I know he was talking about Olympic gold medal and all this stuff. I think he thought this was his house. He's like, this is mine for the taking, and it's going to be served to me on a silver platter, and I'm the champ. And I just think he probably felt my confidence when I walked out there, just because I carried that kind of with me. He was I didn't even know he was following me. I didn't know what was going on, but he always seemed to be like kind of pissed off a little bit that I was wearing the flag. I'm like, maybe some situations, very few, I guess. I don't know why you'd want to get mad at someone, people in the past have kind of done it, I think it was Pat Glory did it a couple years ago. I saw that, and I'm like, dude, like, that's awesome. I love that. You're standing for what you believe in. And obviously, as a active member of the United States Air Force, active duty, I care about this country, and I'm going to represent it every single day. Even though I'm not wearing an Air Force singlet, I got that American flag around my back. So I just think it kind of got to him. And I think it got to him more that it didn't affect me. That also kind of maybe affected him. Kind of backfired.
Well, I thought the same thing. I'm watching. We were doing a watch party, so I was watching the ESPN feed, and I saw him walk up to you, and you just like, it was like just a little sidestep, or just like you said. I didn't hear him. I didn't even notice. I just stepped out of the way and kept walking. And I thought, that's the best reaction you could have. To turn around and chirp or say something is what he wants. And you were just like stone-faced, like, yeah, I don't care. I'm locked in, brother. And maybe that rattled him, maybe it didn't, but I don't think it was the reaction he was expecting. So, I'm not. Yeah.
Like I said, it probably backfired a little bit on him because, there's the couple pictures I've seen where I'm just like, I glanced at him one time, and it was really just to see where his hand was so I could give him a handshake, but. That was, if I go up to someone to intimidate them, and then they like give me a friendly gesture, I'm gonna rethink what I just did, And I think in an arena full of over 18,000 people, and he's ready to go, and that happens, he was just like, well, here we go, Nothing else to really do from there besides wrestle. So put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, and we have another clip, and it's basically the final restart through the end of the match. And Nick, if you want to pull this one up, I just want to kind of watch it, and we can turn the volume down, but just hearing your thoughts, and I assume you've watched it, but what you're thinking and what's going through your head, or maybe nothing's going through your head.
I've watched it a lot. Yeah, well, I was just like, I need to commit to one attack, and whenever I got that shot, I kind of already made up my mind that I was going to get that takedown. I had it, I lost it, and then I came back and got it, and I was still locked in. I was on top of him, and I was just like, I'm going to squeeze this, man. I don't care what it takes. I am not letting him up. And I was just watching the clock slowly count down, and that takedown, I think Gable was just kind of shocked, I think. He was, you can see him look up. He was just like, what? like, what do I do now? I don't know. It was just, I was excited, and as soon as I tried to stand up, I kind of just blacked out. In memory-wise, I was still there, but I was just like, wow, that was like, if there's like a photo finish of a historic match, that would have been it. Like the fact that it was, David against Goliath, it was close match, 4-2, 30 seconds left, almost gets a shot, it's that's a lot different than doing like a slide by, like, oh, takedown. No, this was like slow, dramatic, intense. It was just, oh, I'm getting the goosebumps sitting here again. I mean, I've watched that match so many times, and every time I watch it and I take that shot, I kind of like get off my seat and stand up like I don't know what's gonna happen, because I'm just like, it's such an intense moment. I mean, it really is. It's just that's gonna be a moment I'll remember for the rest of my life right there.
You said it was like, it wasn't a slide by, it was slow, dramatic. Did it feel slow? Did it feel fast? Do you even remember it?
It felt very slow. I remember I was like, just gonna wait. I kind of let my body take over in those matches, and I kind of let it decide when to shoot. Whenever it thinks it's a good opportunity, it kind of just takes over. So I was hitting my fakes. I felt him like really starting to bite, and I was like, all right, let's pull the trigger. And it felt very slow. It felt like I shot, I fell, like pulled my head up, and like just kept like knee sliding, knee sliding, knee sliding. I mean, I went in a circle, I think a time or two, but it felt pretty slow. It did not feel very fast. Well, the initial shot did, but it just felt dramatic. Like I could feel the storyline already being written as I was like taking him down. I'm like, this is it. Like this shot is determining the match. And as soon as I took him down, I'm like, yep, that's the match. Like this is not going any further. I made up my mind to hold him down. I was like, no matter what it takes. If he stood up, I was going to lock my hands and then just hold him up in the air and make sure he couldn't get away. I had a stalling call, but I was like, there's 5 seconds. Like, bag secured.
What an insane moment, historic moment. Like this will go down. Like in the moment, I'm not gonna speak for it. I'm sure it was like excitement. You won. The coaches tackled you. Like it was great. And I don't know. Maybe the rest of the night was a blur. Like, okay, I'm a national champ. That sinks in right away. Probably, maybe. But the gravity of the situation, people are talking about the first, like Dan Gable. This is the biggest upset since like Dan Gable in 1970, I think. When did that sink in? Like, your phone probably blew into pieces because everybody's notifications on everything, and you're on probably hasn't stopped even since. And now here we are today. But like, when did the gravity sink in that like, holy crap, this is really big?
I think it still is, I think finally yesterday I was just like, wow, that just happened, because the first couple of days were just crazy. I was sitting there like, well, I'm a national champion, but like you just said, you described it perfectly. The gravity of what happened is what's still taking a while to sink in a little bit. I mean, I've known I'm a great wrestler, but things are different when you have a great match, and now, a bunch of people are all over the place, send you a text like, wow, I saw your match, like this was it was pretty historic. People from all over that if I've ever bumped into anyone or met them and they got my number, they're sharing with me their perspective on it, their gratitude, just all their support. So it's kind of just, I think it's sunk in a little bit, because I've never had a situation where I've been looking at my phone and I can't respond to all the texts in like 10 minutes after an event, and I've still just got so many messages I'm trying to get back to everyone, but there's just so much support out there. That's kind of what's making it sink in, is so many people are like truly like, they're like, congratulations, you did a great job, it was a great match. And so it's kind of sinking in. It's getting there. It feels really good. I think I'm finally, I'm feeling the gravity of that win.
And not only everything we just said, the gravity, like the dang president of the United States is there, and supposedly he was going to leave, but he met you a couple years back, and he's like, I want to stay for my big guy. Like, you salute him. Like, holy crap. Like, you can't write that.
Yeah, that's also, like, when I say, like, the perfect storm, and it's almost like a Cinderella story, everything just goes perfect, and it's just so beautiful. And I don't watch those movies, only Marvel. I just said that, just come on. So don't. When I say Disney, I'm talking about, like Cars 1, Cars 2, not the Cinderella stuff.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
It's just, everything was so awesome in the way that happened. Because that's my boss of my boss of my boss of my boss. He is most literally my final boss. You know, he's my commander in chief. So having him there, showing my respect for him being there, and you know, just running over to my family, that was the best thing ever. That's what made my night, is looking at my family, hugging them, holding on to them for that, you know, 10 seconds that felt like forever, because that's a moment that, you know, we'd all been looking forward to our whole lives. I've sacrificed so much for the great sport of wrestling, and I remember there was so many church camps, birthday parties, you know, so many things I gave up as a kid, and my dad just kept telling me, son, someday you'll understand the gravity of this. Someday you'll understand why I'm doing this. Like, you might not understand it now, but someday you'll thank me. And I was always like, no, I won't. I wanted to go hang out with the boys, you know. And it's moments like that where nothing was said amongst us. We just locked eyes and hugged, you know, and I understood. I didn't have to tell him. And because when I was a kid, the number one thing that I would always say to my dad is, I know. You know, he's like, son, you should probably do this. I'm like, I know. Or, oh, hey, son, on your shot, you get your head up. And I'm like, I know. And so it was just all those years of hard work and dedication that, you know, I've poured into the sport. It was, you know, all for one moment like that. It was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
And it's funny because I know. And you're like, I didn't really say anything to my dad because you didn't, because now he's like, I know. You don't have to say that. Yeah. I know. This whole time, man, that's super cool. Wow. You got me. Yeah. So maybe describe, and I guess overwhelming would be the word. Like almost your life changed overnight, and it'll go back maybe to normal. Maybe this is the new normal, but I guess I shouldn't speak for you. Did your life change overnight?
It felt pretty cool. You know, I'm like, wow, this was awesome. I think this will be a pretty hype thing for a couple days. And, you know, it has been, but it really hasn't slowed down yet.
Yeah.
You know, I gained a couple, my boys were like, oh my gosh, dude, like you got 20,000 followers. And I'm like, really? I'm like, that's pretty sweet. And I think every day I've been gaining another like 10,000 or so. So, I mean, I'm not going to change the way I live my life. I'm super grateful. I've got a great support staff. I've got the best family in the world. I've got a God that loves me no matter what happens. So, I mean, I'm happy. I love being in Stillwater. We went fishing yesterday, and that's one thing, is I'm trying to, you know, get a lot of this stuff worked out, because there's a lot of great opportunities right now. You know, maybe I could, you know, get some shoes coming out, or, you know, something cool. I can be on all these awesome podcasts. You know, I'm here right now. And so I like to still show my respects and give back to the sport, because my end goal is to inspire people, you know, not just to be great wrestlers, but to be great people, you know. And if you're being called to serve, you know, going to be in the Air Force is an opportunity for you. And it's obviously, there's lots of opportunities, and I'm living out an amazing opportunity right now, being able to wrestle and share my message. So as long as I can inspire the next generation to, you know, be better Christians, be better wrestlers, be better warriors, you know, be better men, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to support them in that, because there's so many people along my journey that made sacrifices for me, and, you know, made it able, so I was able to get my you know, passage paved for me, because of the people that gave back to the sport and cared about people. So, yeah.
I think you mentioned something about merch, and I saw that clip with you, you know, fishing with the boys, which I thought was great, just being a regular dude one day later. Is there a place to get merch, or a link we can put in our description here, or is that forthcoming?
It's coming. I did make a Instagram post about my official logo, I guess you'll call it.
Okay.
So we have that. We're finishing up with the final designs, but absolutely, as soon as the designs get finalized, which should be, you know, within a day or two, there will definitely be a link so you guys can grab some of that national championship merch.
Awesome. And just what's next, right? I know, as far as I understand, you're committed through 2028 to wrestle, and then on back, you know, with everything else. But immediate future, U.S. Open, World Team Trials. When are we going to see you next? I know you're pursuing freestyle.
Yeah, you know, I think I'm letting my body heal up just a little bit longer for a couple more days. Then we're going to hit the ground running again. The U.S. Open is going to be the next stop for me. And then, you know, I'm just going to keep on with my freestyle career. So if there's a tournament that's going on, you can, you know, I'll probably be there. So.
Okay. Did this give you a boost of confidence? I know you're a confident dude, and you've always been a great wrestler. This is like a feat. You beat an Olympic champ. I don't know how much, but does this boost your, your confidence moving into freestyle?
It's a big boost of confidence, but I don't want to. No, I don't want it to let me affect me too much, because if I'm thinking like, oh, I'm the big man on campus now, like, I don't think my training is going to be as, critical as I need it to be. So we looked at the match. Yeah, I wrestled a great match, but there's also a lot of things I didn't do so well that I can fix, There's going to be more matches down the road that are going to be tough matches like that. So I think, we're just going to make sure that we're still training hard. I'm not going to overlook anybody, and every single match I wrestle is going to be a battle. Nothing's ever going to be given to me. You can't ever show up and expect to get something because of something you've done in the past in wrestling. So, that's how stuff happens. That's how you start losing. So I think it's important to just kind of stay humble and realize that I can still get better. And so we're going to, the training is going to keep going. We obviously know what works. We've been on a pretty good regimen. So just stay humble and keep getting better every single day.
Man, that you said it. And I'm super stoked to see you out in Vegas at the US Open and, potentially World Team Trials Final X World Championships. We'll see what happens. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do this today. I'm a little disappointed that we don't have a guitar. You jammed on the guitar last time. You did some card tricks. You did some magic. You're hiding in your car now where you don't have any of that. You don't got to perform it.
You want to know something funny, actually?
Yeah, what's up?
It's actually funny. When you reached out about this show, someone sent me a reminder like, hey, if you play the guitar, make sure you tune it first. I actually did tune it and practice up on a few things. So if you did ask me, I was prepared. I was actually supposed to be home for this, but, we've been doing a lot of awesome social media, lots of press conferences and stuff. And I just happened to be in town, and I was like, I won't be able to make it home. But just in case, I was going to act like, oh, really? You want me to play the guitar? And like, I was just going to start shredding for you a little bit. But I have a feeling that this isn't going to be our last encounter, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities down the road for me to show you how awesome my guitar skills are.
How much better are you at the guitar than I think December was the last time we talked?
So I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I fumbled the ball because I'm not amazing, but like I know I made it look like I didn't know what I was doing, but I just got done moving. My guitar wasn't tuned, none of my settings were set up. I don't even know what I was doing. I was sitting there, I was nervous. I'm like, man, I haven't played in so long. What if I played terribly? And yeah, I did. I played very bad.
I thought it was fine.
So, I'm not amazing. I'm not Led Zeppelin, but, I know the basic stuff, and I can make some decent. I just do it for fun, though. It's fun for me to just hang out and find something where I can just give my full attention to something and do that. Because even fishing sometimes, you can let your mind run wild. That video we made, I was still sitting there. So something like guitars, you have to be in the moment. I have to be paying attention to what my hands are doing, or else, it just keeps me mentally focused so I can kind of let my mind take a break.
Sure. All right, Wyatt. Well, I know you've been run through the ringer probably since before you stepped off the mat. Let you go home, take a nap, or do whatever you want to do. But, man, thank you so much for taking
nap time.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us. Anything else you want to say? Shout-outs? Joke? No, you don't have to tell a joke. But just anything you want to say before we get out of here.
Yeah, I just, for everyone watching, I just want to and I want to try to inspire you and push you guys to really, when you go out and wrestle, believe in yourself, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be doubting you. And before that match, I didn't look at any social media stuff, but hindsight back, I obviously saw some of it, and people just saying stuff like, this isn't the match, like it's not going to happen, like, Gable's going to win, there's like 0% chance Wyatt wins, all that stuff. Like, if you get so caught up in what other people are saying, you're going to forget, you're going to forget about yourself. And the only thing that really matters is what you tell yourself in those moments. And when I went out there, I had a vision of victory, and I wanted to win that match. So I just encourage you guys to, when you go out and wrestle, focus on yourself and believe in yourself, because it's such a cliche to thing, but and you won't understand until you go out there and do something great. Like, I've always told myself that, but I just went and, beat an Olympic gold medalist, and I had to believe in myself. It's moments like that where it finally clicks. So if it doesn't work the first time, no one's ever going to be perfect their first time. It might take a couple of good matches or a couple of good years. It's taken me 19 years to realize that if you believe in yourself, anything's possible. And, it took a big moment like that to put it to the test. So keep grinding, work hard, and there's no shortcut to success. You just got to put in the work.
Man, well said. Awesome message, awesome performance, awesome interview. Thanks so much for the time, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me on. Have a good one.
Thanks, Wyatt. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.